A 14-year-old girl walks into a room full of fashion executives, and Donatella Versace, takes one look at her and says, "She's mine." Not maybe, not let's see how she develops, mine. That girl, she'd go on to walk every major runway from Paris to Milan, grace the cover of Vogue, and become one of the most electric presences fashion had ever seen. So why haven't you heard of Brandi Quinones? Here's what kills me. We can name every 90s supermodel off the top of our heads. Naomi, Kate, Claudia, Cindy, Linda. Their names are fashion gospel. But Brandi, the girl with the megawatt smile who closed Chanel Couture, the model whose walk was so legendary, it literally made editors stop mid-conversation. Somehow, she got edited out of the story. And before you think this is another tale of scandal or tragedy, let me stop you right there. This isn't about drugs or drama or some mysterious disappearance. This is about something way more unsettling, how the fashion industry can make you vanish simply by forgetting to remember you. Because here's the thing about Brandi Quinones. She did everything right. She had the look, the walk, the campaigns. She was literally grouped with Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss as a supermodel of her generation. But she was also something the 90s fashion world didn't quite know how to handle. An Afro-Cuban beauty who couldn't be stuffed into their neat little boxes. And maybe that's why her story matters more now than ever. Let's rewind to the beginning, because Brandi's story doesn't start with a chance discovery at a mall or a scout spotting her at an airport. Nope, this girl was literally born into the fashion matrix. January 25th, 1977, New York City. Already sounds like the opening credits of a fashion documentary, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Her mom wasn't just any mom. She was a professional model turned makeup artist who understood this world from the inside out. Imagine being 2 years old, and instead of playing with toy makeup, you're learning actual techniques from someone who does this for a living. By the time most kids are figuring out how to color inside the lines, Brandi's learning how to contour. Her mom would dress her up, teach her poses, show her how the camera works. This wasn't stage mom stuff. This was preparation, because somehow, maybe her mother knew what was coming.
My job is to make the clothes look beautiful, make my money, and leave, you know?
And get this, at 7 years old, she gets her first Dior dress. Not a knockoff, not a hand-me-down. Christian freaking Dior. Most of us were thrilled to get a new pair of light-up sneakers, and Brandi's out here in haute couture. But this wasn't about spoiling a kid. This was about speaking the language. Fashion isn't just clothes. It's a culture, a way of moving through the world. And Brandi, she was fluent before she hit double digits. The family bounced around. Florida, Oklahoma, back to New York. Not exactly the glamorous fashion capitals you'd expect, but maybe that's what gave Brandi her edge. She wasn't some sheltered it girl raised in Manhattan's Upper East Side. She knew different worlds, different people. She had that New York hustle mixed with Southern charm and Midwest groundedness. By the time she hit 14 and moved back to NYC to model professionally, she wasn't just ready, she was overqualified. Think about it. While other models were learning how to walk in heels for the first time, Brandi had been practicing since she could walk. While they were figuring out their angles, she'd been studying them in mirrors since kindergarten. This wasn't just natural talent meeting opportunity. This was years of unconscious preparation meeting its moment. And here's something else. Growing up mixed race in America in the 80s wasn't exactly a walk in the park. You're too black for some spaces, not black enough for others. Too Latina here, not Latina enough there. But instead of letting that break her, Brandi turned it into her superpower. She learned early how to move between worlds, how to adapt without losing herself, skills that would serve her perfectly in the shape-shifting world of high fashion. Okay, so picture being 14 years old. Most of us were worried about algebra tests and whether our crush noticed our new haircut. Brandi, she's signing with Next Model Management and getting shipped off to Europe. But here's where the story takes a turn that sounds too good to be true, except it actually happened. She books this campaign for Versace, not a small editorial, not a lookbook, a full campaign. And Donatella Versace herself handpicks her. I need you to understand what this means. Donatella doesn't just choose models, she chooses muses. She chooses girls who embody the entire spirit of what Versace represents: power, sex appeal, confidence, a certain untouchable quality. And she saw all of that in a teenager from New York who'd barely started her career. The shoot happens in Miami. Photographer Doug Ordway behind the lens, and something clicks. Not just the camera, everything. Suddenly, this unknown girl is the new face everyone's talking about. Donatella basically claims her, like, "This one's mine, find your own." And when Donatella Versace claims you, doors don't just open, they get blown off their hinges. Within weeks, Brandi's walking her first haute couture show for Chanel in Paris. Let that sink in. From signing with an agency to closing Chanel Couture in a matter of months, That's not a career trajectory. That's a rocket launch. And remember, she's still 15. While her friends back home are picking out prom dresses, she's being fitted by Karl Lagerfeld. But here's what really gets me about this moment. It wasn't just that she was young or beautiful or lucky, it was that she had something indefinable. Donatella saw it immediately. That thing that makes someone more than just a pretty face or a good walk. That thing that makes them unforgettable. And Brandi, she had it in spades. The fashion world started buzzing. Who was this girl? Where did she come from? How did she just appear fully formed on the Versace roster like some kind of fashion Athena? But that's the thing. She didn't just appear. She'd been preparing for this moment her whole life, even if she didn't know it. And can we talk about the pressure? You're 15. Suddenly you're in Milan, Paris, London. You don't speak the languages. You're living out of suitcases. You're expected to be perfect every single second. Most teenagers crack under the pressure of a history test. Brandi was navigating international fashion weeks like a pro. Now here's where Brandi's story goes from impressive to absolutely insane. From 1993 to 1997, this girl wasn't just working, she was conquering. Chanel, Dior, Givenchy, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Yves Saint Laurent, Valentino. These aren't just brands, they're institutions. And Brandi wasn't just walking for them, she was their girl. But let me paint you the real picture of what this looked like. It's Paris Fashion Week. The backstage is chaos. Models everywhere, makeup artists wielding brushes like weapons, stylists having actual meltdowns over a missing shoe. And in walks Brandi with that smile that could power a small city. The energy shifts because when Brandi walked, she didn't just model clothes, she performed. Karl Lagerfeld, who was notorious for being, let's say, particular about his models, couldn't get enough of her. He'd put her in the most important looks, the showstoppers. Same with every other designer, because here's what they understood. Brandi didn't just wear the clothes, she made you believe in them. She could take a dress that looked like nothing on the hanger and make it look like the only thing any woman would ever want to wear. The thing about Brandi's walk, it wasn't taught. You can't learn that in modeling school. It was pure instinct, pure joy, pure confidence. She'd hit that runway and it was like she was at the best party of her life and everyone else was invited. Models today study technique, practice their angles, perfect their pacing. Brandi just was. And that authenticity, that's what made her untouchable. But, and there's always a but, not everyone knew what to make of her. See, the 90s fashion world had very specific boxes. You were either the blonde bombshell or the exotic beauty or the girl next door. Brandi, she was Afro-Cuban with Sicilian genes that gave her this incredible hair. She had this warmth that felt American, but this sophistication that felt European. Editors would literally stop mid-sentence trying to figure out how to describe her. She later admitted it. Editors weren't used to seeing a girl like me. They couldn't figure out if she was Latina or black. And in an industry that loves its categories, being uncategorizable was both her superpower and her curse. Because while designers were obsessed with her, while photographers couldn't get enough of her, the fashion media, the people who write the narratives, who decide who becomes legend and who becomes footnote, they were stumped. And let's be real about what this meant. Every time she walked into a casting, she wasn't just auditioning for a job, she was challenging an entire system that wanted to put her in a box marked ethnic and call it a day. But Brandi refused to be anyone's token. She wasn't the black model or the Latina model, she was just the model, the one everyone wanted. April 1994, American Vogue, the holy grail of modeling. And there's Brandi on the cover, shot by Herb Ritts. If you know anything about 90s fashion, you know Herb Ritts didn't just take photos, he created icons. And he chose Brandi, not for an inside editorial, not for a small feature, the cover. But wait, it gets better. Ella Spain, they put her on the cover 4 times. 4. That's not normal. That's not, oh, she's doing well. That's, we cannot get enough of this girl. Each cover was different, sometimes glamorous, sometimes playful, always unmistakably Brandi. Spain couldn't get enough of her, and honestly, who could blame them? And then, because apparently being on multiple international Vogue and LA covers wasn't enough, 1997 rolls around, and she lands the Pirelli calendar. Now, if you don't know about the Pirelli calendar, let me break it down. This isn't just another modeling gig. This is the assignment that says you've made it. They pick maybe 12 models a year, and it's shot by the biggest photographers in the world. It's the kind of thing that cements your place in modeling history. And there's Brandi, alongside the biggest names in fashion. Here's what's crazy though. Despite all of this, despite literal receipts that she was operating at supermodel level, she's somehow been erased from the narrative. When people list the 90s supers, her name rarely comes up. When they talk about that era, she's a footnote if she's mentioned at all. But the evidence is right there. Model agency profiles from the time literally group her with Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss, Moss and Claudia Schiffer. She wasn't adjacent to supermodel status. She had it. She was closing couture shows, landing prestige campaigns, shooting with the best photographers. She was doing everything the Big Five were doing. So why don't we remember her that way? The answer might be uncomfortably simple. The supermodels we remember are the ones who gave us drama to go with their beauty. The public feuds, the rock star boyfriends, the tell-all books. Brandi gave us everything on the runway, and nothing off it. She kept her personal life personal in an era that was just starting to demand total access. Here's where Brandi's story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Late 90s, she's at the absolute peak. She could have done anything. Started a beauty line, done reality TV when that became a thing, written a tell-all book. Instead, she just left. No scandal, no dramatic breakdown, no public feuds or drug problems or arrested developments. One day, she's on every runway in Paris, and then she's just not. And the fashion world, which usually loves a good mystery, basically shrugged and moved on. But here's what's beautiful about it. It was completely intentional. Brandi chose to step back. In her own words, "I never look back." Think about the power in that. In an industry built on nostalgia, on constantly referencing your glory days, on trading on what you used to be, Brandi said no thanks. She didn't do the typical supermodel fade out either. No desperate clinging to relevance. No sad later campaigns trying to recapture the magic. She just decided she was done with that chapter and closed the book. How many people have that kind of strength? To walk away from something at its peak because you're ready for something else? And here's what kills me. The fashion world couldn't handle it. They're so used to models either burning out spectacularly or desperately hanging on that when someone just makes a calm, rational decision to move on, they don't know how to process it. So they create mystery where there is none. They whisper about what really happened because the truth, that a woman simply decided she wanted something different, is somehow harder to believe than scandal. For almost 2 decades, Brandi Quinones became fashion's ghost, present in the archives but absent from the conversation, remembered by those who were there but forgotten by history, and she was totally fine with that. While her peers were writing memoirs and doing reality shows and trying to squeeze every last drop from their supermodel days, Brandi was living her life, away from cameras, away from judgment, away from an industry that never quite knew what to do with her anyway. 2017, New York Fashion Week. The lights dim, the music starts, and out walks a 40-year-old woman with the kind of confidence that makes everyone in the room sit up straighter. Brandi Quinones is back, but this isn't some desperate comeback. This isn't a please remember me moment. Brandi walks for Vaquera, landlord Willie Chavarria, the cool kids, the designers pushing boundaries and challenging what fashion could be. At 40, when most models are considered ancient history, Brandi's out here showing everyone what they've been missing. Vogue loses their minds. Fashion Twitter explodes. Everyone's like, oh my god, Brandi's back. And she's just like, I never left. You just stopped looking. Because here's the thing, she'd been working this whole time. Maybe not on the main stages, maybe not for the big magazines, but she'd never actually stopped modeling. She just stopped playing the game. And that walk, that legendary, hip-swinging, megawatt smile walk that made her famous, still there. Maybe even better, because now it's not just confidence, it's wisdom. It's not just youth and beauty. It's a woman who knows exactly who she is and doesn't need anyone's validation. The fashion press tries to make it about nostalgia. They want to talk about the 90s, about the glory days, about what was. Brandi? She shuts it down. The past is great and cute, but I never look back. Even in her return, she refuses to be a museum piece. She's not here to remind you of what was. She's here to show you what is. And can we talk about the power of that? In an industry that worships youth, that tells women they expire at 25, Brandi walks back in at 40-like age is just a number someone made up. She's not trying to look 20. She's not apologizing for the lines on her face or the years that have passed. She's just there, fully herself, taking up space like she has every right to, which, of course, she does. The younger models backstage are shook. Here's this woman who was a legend before they were even born, and she's not bitter. She's not jaded. She's not trying to school them on how things used to be. She's just there, professional as ever, doing the job she's always loved, making it look easy, making them all look twice. So here we are, and I keep coming back to this question. How does someone who did everything right get erased from history? How does a model who walked every major show, landed Vogue covers, shot with the biggest photographers, somehow not make the Supermodel Hall of Fame? The answer is uncomfortable, but it's real, because the fashion industry only remembers the stories it wants to tell. And Brandi's story, a Black and Latina woman who couldn't be categorized, who succeeded on her own terms, who left when she wanted to leave, that story doesn't fit the narrative. See, the 90s supermodel mythology is very specific. specific. It's about excess and drama and larger-than-life personalities. It's about women who became brands, who played the game, who gave the public not just their beauty, but their breakdowns, their rivalries, their personal lives splashed across tabloids. Brandi gave them her talent and kept the rest for herself. And apparently, that wasn't enough. But here's what they missed by forgetting Brandi Quinones. They missed the model who proved you could be both powerful and private. They missed the woman who showed that you could have it all and then walk away because all wasn't what you wanted anymore. They missed the story of someone who understood that being a supermodel was something she did, not who she was. When I look at Brandi's career, I don't see a mystery or a tragedy or a what could have been. I see a woman who did it exactly right. She took what she wanted from an industry that takes everything, and she left on her own terms. She refused to be nostalgic about her own life. She refused to trade on what she used to be. She refused to let anyone else tell her story. And maybe that's why her legacy matters more now than ever, in a world where everyone's personal brand is always on, where we're all performing all the time, where leaving any industry feels like death. Brandi Quinones is proof that you can just stop. You can choose yourself over the spotlight. You can be legendary and still have a private life. You can be unforgettable and still refuse to look back. The fashion industry might have forgotten to write Brandi into the official history, but she's still there in every model who refuses to be put in a box. She's there in every woman who walks away from something big because she's ready for something different. She's there in that space between what the world expects from you and what you decide to give. They say you'll never see another supermodel like her. And they're right, because there's never been anyone like Brandi Quinones, the supermodel who remembered that modeling was just a job, who knew that being uncategorizable was actually her greatest strength, who understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is leave the room while everyone's still watching. That's the real story, not the mystery, not the speculation, not the where is she now. The real story is that Brandi Quinones showed us what it looks like when someone writes their own ending. And honestly, we could all use a little more of that energy. In a world that's always asking for more content, more access, more of yourself, Brandi's the reminder that you can just say no. You can be brilliant and brief. You can be unforgettable and still keep the best parts of yourself for yourself. And isn't that the ultimate power move?